Hello, I'm Stan Hall. Welcome to this edition of the Gwinnett Sports Commission's Get in the Game. While we've talked before, in fact, we've actually bragged before about the great parks we have here in Gwinnett County, we've never really focused on what these great parks afford us as far as our sports programs are concerned that we have here. Today we're going to focus on the Gwinnett Football League, the organization that oversees all of the youth football programs that operate in our county parks. It's one of the largest and most successful youth leagues in the nation. Our guest today and the president of the Gwinnett Football League is Erik Richards, and he's going to update us a little bit about this league. Erik, welcome to the show, and thanks for being with us today.
How you doing, Stan? How exciting time to be here, and a great time, and working with the Parks and Rec and the whole Gwinnett Football League has definitely put us on the map nationwide.
Absolutely has, and we appreciate you stopping by today. Erik, for the people who don't know that are watching today, give me a little history about the Gwinnett Football League. When was it formed? How did it get started? And just update us a little bit on the history.
Yeah, it was a weight-based program up to the early 80s, and about 8 associations got together and said, you know, what are we doing about these athletes that are being left out to the side and can't play because of their weight? Or not being able to play at a certain position because of their weight. And my forefathers, so to speak, came up with the ingenious idea, let's go unlimited weight by position. Now, being a 50-pound kid in Gwinnett, that really wasn't good for me, all of a sudden having to tackle these 120 and 130-pound running backs. But the first couple years, I think everybody across the country kind of looked at it, because Gwinnett was one of the first in the country that went to an age-based program with no weight restrictions. In other words, when I say no weight restrictions, there was no weight limitations on who could carry the ball, where a kid would have to play, or anything like that. So the whole country watched, and then 15-something years later, we saw more and more associations go to it, and as I made the transition from coach in the Gwinnett Football League to running an association over at Duluth to on the executive board, I would receive calls from everywhere, Alaska, California, Texas, and wanting to know our rule book, wanting to know how it's working, wanting to know if we saw an increased amount of injuries due to athletes' weight proportion. And the honest opinion is, and USA Football just came out with a study, a 2-year study they've done, and they've proven that playing age-based or weight-based, there is no difference in the amount of injuries.
So, and you told me before in conversations, you think that change from age to weight, or that the method you have in place now, you think that was transformational as far as the success y'all seen in this league?
Absolutely. What it did is, what we found out it did is, once that the culture shock of a player going from a weight-based program all of a sudden to their 9th grade year of high school is tremendous. And now what we found, and what our coaches in the Gwinnett high schools saw 15, 20 years ago, is when the athlete got there in the 9th grade, he wasn't scared of hitting this 220-pound running back. He'd been hitting him all the time since he's been 6 years old. Yeah. And so the fear of hitting a larger kid wasn't there, so they could go right into a technique and scheme training and not have to get over the fear of collisions.
Absolutely. Erik, tell me a little bit about the league. As far as I know, it's made up of different associations. How many individual associations make up your entire league?
There's 17 associations, and that encompasses about 10,000 athletes, and notice I use the word athletes,
right.
Not kids, because they truly are. Between football players and cheerleaders, I think we're right about 6,500 football players and another 3,500 cheerleaders. And the 17 associations were designed so that we are truly a feeder program into their community high schools. Okay. And so we encourage strongly that the player participates in their high school community feeder program. Therefore, if I'm sitting across the lunchroom from Stan, I'm playing football with him. Yeah. He's on my team, and you're going to school, you're playing with your peers, you're running with your peers, and overall it creates a good community type atmosphere to look out on a Friday night and look up in those stands, and while the high school student bodies make up a good portion, you look over in the other set of stands and you won't believe how many 6-year-old through 8th graders are running around in that community's jersey.
Now, and you talked about, and I want to talk a little bit about the cheerleaders too, because that is a very big part of y'all's y'all's league as well. But does that same premise take place, that you want them to cheer in that same cluster,
Absolutely,
if you will?
and I think the cheerleaders more so, every now and then you get a football player that may want to jump to a different cluster to try to chase a winning team. We frown upon it heavily, but the cheerleaders, we don't have that problem out of, because they do want to, go to school with who they're cheering with, and they grow up with these girls all the way from 6-year-olds to 8th grade. And we, about 12, 15 years ago, we just, we said we got to do something with the cheerleaders as far as a competition, their Super Bowl, so to speak. And so now, one weekend a year, we go over to the Gwinnett Arena, and we run about 12,000 people in attendance through the doors, and they watch some odd 200 teams compete in all different age levels, and that's their day to shine. And you won't believe the football teams that come in and support the girls, and the roses that are bought that day in Gwinnett County are out of the roof. We try the whole basis on Gwinnett Football League. We try to make it a recreational program that is competitive enough so that you don't have to go out and seek a travel team and have your parents traveling all over the country and everything. And I think we've done a good job to get a good football game. You don't have to go get on a travel team if you live in Gwinnett County.
Right.
You can get you a good matchup any Saturday.
Yeah. Eric, let me ask you a little bit about that. I am a product of the youth football league. Even at my age, I played midget football as a kid and worked my way up. But I remember specifically as a kid playing football, I don't think it was anywhere near the level of what we see today. I mean, back then, honest to goodness, and with all due respect to my parents, I think it was just more of a way of giving me and my brother something to do to get us out of the way. It's no longer that. When did it start to transform into where that whole skill building was taking place?
I would say early 2000s that you saw the going away from the three-sport athlete. Society has created that, and I'm not going to sit here and say, is it a good thing that you don't put down your football helmet in November and pick up a basketball, and put down your basketball in February and pick up a baseball bat? I'm not here to judge that. I know from a competitive and training standpoint, I think you're afforded so many more opportunities. Everybody says, well, we don't have the three-sport athlete anymore, it's ruined it and this and that. But the truth is you didn't have a baseball spring league and fall league. And now you have that opportunity, because let's face it, every sport isn't for everybody. And so if an athlete gets into a sport and the size of our high schools, and to be competitive and to probably have a good shot of making that high school team so that you're participating, it probably does take the majority of mid-level athletes concentrating on a sport semi-year round, and especially once they get to the sixth grade.
Well, let me ask you, I know that a lot of the stories you see now where college coaches are actually identifying kids at a very young age. Of course, there's certain things that they can and can't do, which is good, but still being able to identify them at an early age. How early can a kid be sort of picked out of the litter, if you will, as you being able to say, someone who's been in this business a long time? Right. You watch that kid right there, because that's someone who has talent. When can you really start making that?
I think 8th grade is the magic number, and it's strictly come because with all the off-season conditioning and training program. I often say if they would have had all this off conditioning training with speed and agility and strength training when I was a kid, I'd ran a 4.440 and bench pressed 350 pounds. But they didn't have it, so I was a 4.840 and bench pressed 200. But I think at the 8th grade level, you kind of see some that are just way up here, and that's not to say the ones aren't down here don't hit a late growth spurt and come up. But we're lucky enough to be in a county where it's easy, talent-wise, it's easy to compare where you should be or where this kid's going to be in 3 or 4 years because of the competitive level. It's not just an athlete out there running around and running over and through a bunch of lesser players. You're lining up on any given Saturday, Stan. You're playing against some heavy competition, and so if you're above that competition in this county, you're probably
in a good spot.
Probably a pretty good player.
Now, I bet you that the coaches, you say that you've set this association up where it's a feeder system for the high schools. How active are they in sort of keep an eye on the kids that are coming up the pipe pretty soon? How active are they in sort of keeping up with the the athletes who seem to be, the cream of the crop.
Well, I mean, you look out on any given Saturday and you'll see a Kevin Maloof, a Jess Simpson, Cecil Flo for all the years he was at Parkview, Mark Cruz at Brookwood. You'll see them at the games. I don't think they're necessarily, per se, really focusing in on one or two kids, the Rennie Currans of the world and the John Stenscombs of the world, as much as they're there to support the whole association, and they do what they do a good job of is training our youth coaches and implementing their terminology and their scheme by holding summer camps for them, and some of them make themselves available during the week. I mean, here these guys are, they wake up, they go teach all day, they go do practice, they watch film, and all of a sudden at 7 o'clock at night, they're swinging by a youth practice once a week to lend a hand to any of our youth coaches out there. And I think the gap that our high school coaches have with our youth programs only is going to benefit them 2 to 3, 4 years down the road.
Well, and talking about the coaching a little bit, the evolution we talked about as far as these athletes who have gone from just being an activity to really some skill building, that's true of the coaches as well. I remember when I was a kid, some of our kids were probably as talented as the coaches because they were just people filling roles. Tell us how that's changed.
The coaching level, if you're going to get in this county and coach, I mean, this sounds ridiculous, and when I tell people this across the country, they just look at me like I got two heads, but my 6-year-old coaches watch film.
Yeah.
I mean, they're breaking down film of their next opponent and everything else, because they know if they do not, then their opponent is, and he's got a leg up on them when they get out there on Saturday. So the dedication of the coaches in the Gwinnett Football League is unparalleled across the country, and I can honestly say that, having traveled the country, as you well know, my paying job is in the football industry with the U.S. Army All-American Bowl, so I get to wake up and do this 365 days a year, 7 days a week, and the beauty of that is I get to go all around the country and see different associations, everything like that. And it's funny because when you get a coach that moves here from another state, it's the first thing they say is, man, y'all take it serious here.
Oh, yeah.
But they take it serious in a good way. We're not going to be with all the exposure in the last couple months that's been put on the Friday Night Tykes deal and that reality TV show out of San Antonio, Texas area. I've never seen coaching like that in our association. A lot of that goes back to my park directors always walking the fields during practice, making sure we don't have coaches out there running drills that are unsafe for our athletes.
Well, and I know based on some things that I've been involved with the Sports Commission as far as the Football League and all the youth leagues, you require a lot of these coaches as far as educational training they have to go through as well.
Yeah, we put on in addition to everything they're going through with their high school coaches, sometimes 4 and 6 sessions with their high school coaches during the summertime. We have an annual coaches clinic where we bring guest speakers in, and heads up tackling clinic, and then also our great partner, the Gwinnett Medical Center Foundation, provides our 268 trainers of each team a day-long seminar of bringing them up to date annually on the latest in concussion and the latest in heat hydration, the latest in sprains and breaks, and so equipment fitting. So they do a great job. We do that once a year. So it's a constant, ongoing training, and now with all the online resources, we encourage and make available for our coaches to keep that going on. And it's really something I don't even have to do, and other areas have to do it and push it down their coach's throat. But we're lucky enough to be in a competitive and but fun environment to where our coaches take it serious and do it on their own.
Okay. Erik, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the medical side of it as far as concussion, which is a big topic now, and sort of see what y'all's stance on that is. We're talking today with Erik Richards of the Gwinnett Football League. We're going to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry. I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
All in together now. We can make it better now. Come on, can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
We rope it up,
Cause we know how to jump.
we roll it out,
Cause we know how to skate.
we'll cut it down,
Cause we know what to eat.
we'll swap it out.
We eat healthy stuff.
Can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
Can we do it?
Just moving a little and eating better every day can help make you and your child healthier. Search We Can to find doable tips and activities that you can use every day.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking today with Erik Richards, who's the president of the Gwinnett Football League. Erik, before the break, we had touched a little bit on sort of the injury side of youth sports in general, and of course one of the big topics in football now, and even though it's sort of transcended into other disciplines as well, football seems to be the one we always talk about as far as concussion. I know that's something y'all take very seriously. Tell us a little bit about what you guys have in place now to try to address that whole concussion issue.
Right. Well, first of all, let's put all the moms at ease out there. And the latest studies have shown that there's no more concussions in football than there is in soccer, lacrosse, and other sports. And so it's not a sport to where mom should worry about, oh gosh, if I'm putting my player in football, I'm increasing the probability of a concussion. So I want to spell that myth right off the bat. This game has been saved, and for years I thought if we don't do something, when you have ex-NFL athletes doing what they were doing and everything like that, something had to be done. And the change of that the NFL has gone in and put the millions and millions of dollars in of teaching a different form of how to tackle and having your head up, and the whole initiative of striking, of where to be when you strike is going to save the game.
Yeah.
And it's, are you still going to have a concussion here or a concussion there? Yeah. Is your son going to, take the chance of a concussion riding a skateboard down the side of the street? Yes. Mm-hmm. But this game's it's saved, and it's going to make it a safe game for years to come. And the NFL has been a large portion of that. I just got back from the NFL Combine up in Indianapolis, watching some of our GFL kids that were competing in it up there. So it was a beat your chest moment somewhat. But I went to a couple seminars, and the amount of dollars and resources they've gone into training these master certified coaches, and we just bring them back and we try to carry it on down to our coaches. And so I think you're going to see the game change from the 6-year-old to the 7-year-old to 8-year-old level upwards, to where eventually you won't have as many head-on-head collisions, which will induce reduce concussions. Now, if there is a concussion symptom, our trainers are trained up enough with our great partner at the Gwinnett Medical Center, who had just opened up this concussion institute right here in our backyard about a year ago. We were one of the first associations in the country that mandated baseline impact testing for all our 7th and 8th graders. It's a little bit harder at that time to go lower than 7th grade because the tests weren't designed to go down that low, but since then they've come out with a more pediatric test that even covers our 5th and 6th graders and everything. And so we've got the tools right here in our backyard with the Concussion Institute. It's a great tool to have, and I think our trainers and our paramedics that are on site for every game are well equipped with the tools that have been provided to us by Gwinnett Medical Center.
That's great. You mentioned early in our conversation about the relationship you have with the Parks and Recs, as we did in our opening comments about today's show. But tell me a little bit about that. The parks own the fields. What's the relationship there as far as how you guys, because you actually control the fields, so how does that work?
Yeah, we're in a little bit different situation than most people across the country. A lot of places across the country, Parks and Rec will try to run from a registration standpoint to issuing out equipment to putting them on the fields and everything. And I'm just telling you, the system don't work. Having traveled everywhere, it's hard. It's hard to put on these employees that come in and work at 9 in the morning, to run a football Association at 9:30 and 10 at night. And
Right.
so they were kind enough back when we started this organization in the 80s to say, we're going to lease you the fields. You guys run it, all right? You guys handle it. You guys handle any coaching problems you might have. We don't want to hear them, and we're going to make sure that your playing confines are in pristine condition. Your parks are nice, and I think, you know, with the award they got 3 or 4 years ago through Sports Illustrated and the other multiple awards they've won over the years, I think they've delivered on their end, and they listen. I mean, I told them, you know, I was a big proponent, and I stomped, you know, on Tina Fleming's desk when lacrosse came along and told them that, look, you got to do turf now because the playing field is not going to be able to handle
That much
lacrosse
action.
during the spring and us during the fall.
Right.
And they listened, and they've slowly gone in and done turf at the different parks, and eventually all football playing fields will be turf. And what that allows us to do, Stan, is there is nothing worse than an athlete going to school at 7 in the morning, getting out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and coming home and hearing the mom tell them, we can't, your practice is canceled, we can't use the fields today. I mean, I know I can barely sit still here with you for the next, 20 minutes. So you put me in a school setting for, 8 hours, and then all I got to look forward to is getting out and running around and playing, and I get home and my mom tells you that, hey, Eric, I'm sorry, practice is canceled because it rained a day ago and the fields didn't drain, or what we went through 2 summers ago with the drought. It was the other end. We couldn't get on the field because there wasn't any water and everything. And so
And
the
turf eliminates all that.
Turf eliminates all that. It can, be a downpour, and we can be on it in 30 minutes after the, lightning quit striking. We can be on it. And so I really want to take my hat off to Gwinnett County Parks and Rec for taking and the taxpayers for taking the financial investment and allowing these athletes a place to play after sitting in those schools all day long.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about some success stories you have. And I know that we've talked about all the different age categories you have, but not to diminish the importance of any of them, but you had one group that's done very well and just was, tell me about the championship. I don't want to tell the story incorrectly.
Well, I'll tell it.
Go ahead.
Haven't been proud of it. Actually, it started last year. The FBU National Championship is kind of like a March Madness meets Little League World Series. And you've seen the Little League World Series played on ESPN. It's a true 64-team format that plays 2 rounds the first weekend and works down to a Sweet 16.
From across the country.
From across the country, from everywhere.
Yeah.
Hawaii, there's a team Hawaii in it, a team from Washington. Every major market is represented. And the very first year, the GFL team, this is 3 years old now, the very first year the GFL team lost by 1 point on 2-point conversion to the Central Florida team that went on and won it. Well, me and the coaches from around the association said, at that time we thought, well, maybe we're not cut out for this. So we came back and kind of retooled the way we did some things on selection process and included coaches from different associations, and came back last year in the 2012 season and won the whole thing. And those particular athletes are 9th graders next year. Well, this year we came back and we assembled another team, and we're like, well, this team isn't as good as the one we had last year, but who knows? Maybe we make it to 2nd or 3rd round. Well, they defied odds and made it all the way out to San Antonio and won it again at the 8th grade level. So to say we have a bullseye on our back is an understatement. If the rest of the country didn't know about Gwinnett football, they do now.
They do now.
They know that GFL logo is recognized everywhere. Everything, but it's a good thing to have. And I just hope we're not like the Braves and success doesn't spoil us, because the reality is, one team out of 64, your chances of winning year in and year out are against us and everything. I just hope we hadn't set ourselves up on a pedestal so high that we can't, that we don't let people down. But it's a great tournament, and what it does is, realistically, as competitive as this football organization is, you may have a kid like, I mentioned I just got back from the Combine. Bradley Roby played at Peachtree Ridge and played in the Lilburn Association, coming all the way up through GFL. And he may go through a whole season not really per se being tested at practice. But if we allow these players to come together in an all-star format at the end, now not only are they tested with the best players from within the county, they're going to get to see how they measure up against the players from Florida, from North Carolina, Kentucky, and so it allows them to elevate their game where otherwise they may not get that opportunity.
Well, and you've talked about the combines, and I know you told me you just gotten back from there, but I think it does speak volumes about the success of your league and our high school program as well, that you've got, is there three out there now from Gwinnett, you said, in the combine?
We had 5 this year out there. Adrian Hubbard, Bradley Roby, Jawan James that played at North Gwinnett. Dallas Lee's going to be doing a pro day. And we're starting to, build that NFL pipeline. I mean, It's starting to get kind of thick. Cameron Hayward, who actually donated some money to us so the kids could make the trip out on the bus.
He's a Peachtree Ridge guy.
Peachtree Ridge kid, played in the Duluth youth organization, coming all the way up. Is in the league now. Kevin Minner, who played in the Burtmar cluster and then the Peachtree Ridge his last 2 years, is at Arizona Cardinals, second-round pick. So I'm sitting here watching these kids, knowing the more that we can get in the league, the more maybe we help us fundraise to get out to San Antonio and more importantly, help scholarship some players from this county that wouldn't have the opportunity to play in this great sport and the stuff. So we're watching closely, and this year it looks like we're going to have 5 get drafted.
That's great. Well, as we're taping the show today, you guys are getting ready for the start of another season in the summer. If there's people watching today who have not been involved in the league and want to be, how can they find out more information?
We'd love to have you. We have the GwinnettFootball.com website. It's www.GwinnettFootball.com, and go to it, and it's a great website, and it'll guide you to your association and your cluster, and love to have you, and want cheerleaders too. If you've got a daughter at home, it's a great sport, and love to have them come out, and it's not too demanding on time, 2 practices a week, an hour-and-a-half game on Saturday from a recreational standpoint, is a great alternative to having to spend all that money doing gymnastics and traveling the country doing cheerleading. Which,
do it right here at home.
You can do it right here at home in our backyard and in our parks.
Yeah. Erik, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate you sharing some information about the Gwinnett Football League, and best of luck for the future as well.
Well, we appreciate the Gwinnett Sports Commission. We appreciate the Gwinnett Parks and Rec and the Gwinnett Medical Center and all the partners here, because we couldn't run this type of organization without all y'all.
Well, thank you so much. That's all the time we have today. If you have questions or comments about today's show or ideas for future shows, you can reach us at the email address or the phone number shown at the end of the show. Thanks for being with us. I'm Stan Hall. See you next time on Get in the Game. Goodbye.